Barry, I'm going to have you pick up on where Shira was just talking about, because you've lived and breathed entrepreneurship. You've gained not only experience as a founder, where you've been very successful from a procurement standpoint, but you've recently, you just don't seem to want to retire. So I know you accepted a position as an Indigenous procurement specialist with the Indigenous Engagement Center of Excellence. So you are one of those people that people can turn to. So what is your advice to founders having experienced going through the entrepreneurial journey, but they're looking to access these procurement opportunities? And then related to that, how should non-Indigenous companies, not just governments, what should they know in choosing to work with Indigenous companies, so that we can actually expand this beyond simply being a mandate from a government standpoint, but inclusive of non-Indigenous companies as well?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to participate this morning. It's pretty an amazing experience to be with the rest of these folks that I've admired for so long. I'm a member of the Hiawatha First Nation, coming to you from my community right now, where I've actually lived and breathed and started my business 20 some odd years ago from downstairs, and I've moved up on the world. I'm now on the first floor, so I'm positive. And in answer to your clarify on your about me being retired, I wanted to retire. My family couldn't handle me retired. They needed me to get back out of the house, so I kind of enjoyed it. No, the role I've accepted with Procurement Assistance Canada is actually it turned into a dream role because I do get to share my experience and my knowledge of over 20 years of procurement with the federal government. Mainly, like I'm going to say probably 98% of everything I've done in terms of contracting, which is way over 200 million, has been with the federal government. So it's been a long journey. Some of the advice I would give somebody starting out, and I always talk about the before and the after, because when I started out, there weren't the tools in place that there is today, and the networking and the mentorship and things like that. Back then, it was a long road. It was a lonely road. We all, especially if you're in your community, there's a lot of naysayers and people that are negative about Indigenous people getting into business in the community. I have a saying that people want you to get ahead, but not ahead of them, and that's kind of the way it was around here, and things are changing. But some of the advice I would give, I believe, is not to try to do it alone. I learned the hard way all through that, in terms of, and from all aspects, just from trying to actually do a business venture alone and try to learn learn the capacity and the technology of doing it. Uh, Joint venture to me is I love that word these days, because joint venture means so much more. It means you can actually access mentoring by joint venturing with the proper people. You can also I wasn't so very good at picking partners back in the day, and today with corporate Canada, there's so many different opportunities to look at various partners and things, and I think it's very important that you pick the right partner when you're moving forward. Um, and so that would be some of the advice I would give on on the journey side. Networking is certainly very, very important. I think you heard Shannon chat a little bit about what NACA's doing with CCAB and organizations like that. I'm also a member of CCAB and KMC, Canadian Aboriginal Minority Supplier Council. And when I combine them both with the federal government experience, I like to talk about the overall experience. Even though I'm with the federal government, I talk about the big picture. And when you take the federal government 5%, and which is a huge opportunity, and I'm afraid we may not have capacity to make it. You take that. You take the CCAB and all their corporate supporters, and the support they give in KMC and all their corporate supporters. You've got a really good business case there. And I like to think of it as the federal government can be the foundation, and the corporate sector is your growth path. Because I know that I was able to leverage a lot of my federal experience to get into the corporate world, do some things with RBC, and we did some work with the Minister of Natural Resources here in Peterborough. So I think you have to broaden your mind along those along those ideas, and just do like attending conferences and meetings and networking, and it's just getting to know people, and hopefully, and sometimes you can actually collaborate and bring your knowledge together for the corporate experience. Um, I think in another way, Indigenous founders can access procurement opportunities is through your network and LinkedIn. I can't say enough about LinkedIn, and those who know me know I pretty much live on LinkedIn, because there's so many. It's a good, I guess, billboard, bulletin board to share opportunities, and I try to share them as well. But also talking about federal opportunities, it's not as hard as it used to be. The team I work for, Procurement Assistance Canada, will actually you can do one-on-ones. You can do spend some time with myself even, and I'll walk you through on how I used to look for opportunities and things. And there's a lot of different tips and tricks and things like that that you can do there. And that's just a start. And then, like as you heard talk about CCAB, just reaching out and a great thing about these organizations is they're warm calls when you reach out to them. They're the first point of contact or entry into a corporation. So you reach out to them and you explain what it is, and typically they'll introduce you to the folks that look after that. And related to this, you'd mentioned what should non-Indigenous companies know when they choose to work with Indigenous companies. My biggest pet peeve is what I call certification. The biggest fear I have is the pretenders or pretendians stealing the opportunity, and I've had to deal with them for most of my life in business. That there's these folks that they just stand up and self-identify to take advantage of an opportunity. I always try to impress upon organizations that I'm engaging with to think about certification. There's the Indigenous Business Director with ISC they've put together. I'd like to see every business that does any business with the federal government, right from the start, be listed in there, because then you'd be certified. And then you got CCB and CAMC certifications as well. And I know a lot of the suppliers that I interact with on the Indigenous side, we always bring up certification because it kind of eliminates the pretenders. And that's the other thing. The other thing I look at and I try to impress upon people is, and I actually learned this from a course. I never used to use it as much, but the organizations or corporate organizations that have truth and reconciliation on their websites, it's great to put it up there and it's great to talk about it, but show your support, like back up what you're saying. I think a course I took in Indigenous entrepreneurship, and I thought I knew everything. It's like, I think Shannon touched on it's what you don't know sometimes. And Richard Tuck, who taught me, who said, in every you put out, just throw it back at them, remind them about truth and reconciliation. Make sure they walk the talk. And I think that's something that corporations need to do, is back up the fact. It's great see a nice web page that talks about, makes reference to all truth and reconciliation, but do more than just that. Work with us. Actually do business with us. It's nice to have the support, but again, we need to keep the lights on. And somebody asked me in the last presentation I was involved in how to make life a little easier for Indigenous suppliers. Return their phone calls. Very simple. Or return their email. Very simple. And that's all we ask for. And you'd be amazed how the dynamic changes just by engaging them in a simple phone call return, or even if you're not interested in it. Typically, we're just reaching out anyhow to try to find out where to go within the organization. So a little advice, but the biggest thing is, we're coming from in most cases, it's already a challenge for them to be an entrepreneur. To run into negativity is even tougher, and that's why I ask, just give Indigenous suppliers an opportunity and be respectful and return their phone call, their emails, things like that. Um, so I think I could go on for hours and hours about different ideas and pitfalls, but I think that would be, my biggest advice would be, and try to stay around people that are positive. Birds of a feather flock together. Very simple. phrase, but it's very problematic in our community that there's a lot of naysayers. Like I said, the negativity that even things as simple as joining a chamber of commerce, being in a room full of people that are in a positive atmosphere. When I started 20 some odd years ago, I used to listen to Amway cassette driving to Ottawa every day because it was the only thing I could listen to reaffirm, keep the positive just going. When I started, I drove back and forth for 2 years to Ottawa, 4 hours each way. And so you need to hear some positive stories in your life, the affirmations, things like that, and never stop learning. That's probably if I had to sum up my life and where I am today is I don't stop learning. I read, learn, and engage with folks. When I go to any conference or networking session, my goals aren't very lofty. Why set a lofty goal and come away disappointed? I have one goal: meet somebody or learn something new, and that's it. And to me, that's a success. So I welcome everybody to reach out to me. I think we'll post probably our emails later on in the session, and I think Shira talked about like a one-stop shop. We're actually working on something called a concierge, where our department will walk you through the process. We will take you demystify the whole process of RFPs and things like that. So it isn't that difficult. I always say if I can do it, anybody can do it. So that's just the proof there. It's just a matter of showing up. So thank you,
Well,
Barry.
no, you're very welcome. And want to pick up actually just on a couple of things. One, I love that notion, not just staying positive, but I'm a huge believer in the saying, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. I think every founder out there, you're always going to fall down. Just keep standing up, surround yourself with great people. Also want to say too, I really personally believe that the notion of procurement and involving Indigenous companies, this isn't a social outreach. This is good for you. I went and I learned when I was at the NACA conference about Indigenous tourism that was really starting to explode. And this past summer, I went to Point Grondine. I've been doing a canoe trip every single year since my daughter was 5. She's about to turn 19. And I got to tell you, it was extraordinary. And it was a fantastic way to learn about the culture and the history of the land. But it was a wonderful experience. So this is about shared reciprocity. This is about shared economy. This is about sharing your aspirations. This is about so many things that have so many positive benefits.